right here, right in town.
Let's open this meeting now. Please, Christine, would you call the roll?
Larry Porter,
Here.
Joe Zach,
Here.
David McDowell,
Here.
Bridget McCandless,
Here.
Les Boatwright,
Here.
Sherry Tyndall, here.
Okay, before we get to the discussions, we need to elect chairperson and vice chair for next year.
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion, or do you want a discussion first?
No, you can make a motion and we'll discuss it.
I make a motion that Larry Porter remain as chair for another year, and that Les Boatwright be nominated and considered for vice chair.
Do I have a second on that? Got a second? Any discussion? I guess not. Call the roll.
Larry Porter,
Abstain?
Joe Zach,
Yes.
David McDowell,
Yes.
Bridget McCandless,
Yes.
Les Boatwright,
Yes.
Sherry Tyndall,
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay. Let's get into the discussion of fuel cost adjustment. Recommendations. You got it, Jim?
Sure. This is an item that came up after some discussion with some of our community members, a meeting with the mayor. One of the reports that came out recently about the solar farm is that we are at about 60%, 61% of the potential shares have been sold to participants, whether that's residential or commercial customers. There's not much growth in that. We do have some people that choose not to renew theirs, and a trickle of people that will sign up, but it's pretty much stuck at that 60% range. So the question came up: how can we encourage more participation? And one person made those recommendations that he and his wife both participated at the maximum amount allowed. And if those limits weren't there, they would be willing to buy more shares. It's possible some businesses would do the same thing. So the mayor asked that the board consider a recommendation to remove those participation limits. I have reviewed the rate schedule that's published. Is CSP1 Community Solar Program, and it does say in there that the limits that were established at the discretion of IPL can be changed at any time based on observed participation rates. Our observed participation rates have leveled off, so we certainly have room that we could allow for other people to purchase more shares. So staff supports the recommendation.
Do you need a motion?
You have a motion on accepting this from Jim?
I move that we support staff recommendations since it's well within the contract purview. It doesn't really take action of this body, but make a motion that we support moving forward with expanded participation limits. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Larry Porter,
Yes?
Joe Zach,
Yes.
David McDowell,
Yes.
Bridget McCandless,
Yes.
Les Boatwright,
Yes.
Sherry Tyndall,
Yes.
Have I lost control of everything?
We need to go back and catch the approval.
Because that was last month. It was July the 1st.
Approve the minutes. We did roll call, we need to approve that.
No. Okay, now we need to jump to the elected discussion of topics for hosting a public hearing.
Mr. Chair, would you like to go back to the beginning on A for approval of the minutes first?
Well, yeah, I could do that.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion, we approve the March 21st meeting minutes.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? We don't need to call the roll on that, do we?
Yeah.
Motion passed.
We
Now,
do-
topic.
Mr. Chair, we do need to call the roll.
Oh, okay. Call the roll.
Larry Porter,
Yes?
Joe Zach,
Yes.
David McDowell,
Yes.
Bridget McCandless,
Yes.
Les Boatright,
Yes.
Sherry Tindall. Yes.
Motion passed. Now we need to discuss, at this time, I hope, topics for hosting a public hearing. And Adam's not here. How much time do we need and notification do we need to set up a public hearing? Anybody got any ideas? Sarah?
Really, you just need 24 hours to post a notice. So, if this board wants to hold a public hearing, I suggest you guys decide on what topics and pick dates. If you want to
Okay.
do that now, later. I'm not sure what topics you want to hold public hearings for.
Well, that's what we need to decide what topic we're gonna have. And how many and what it is. Anybody got their topic suggestions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Bridget.
I would like for us to have a public hearing talking about future of energy needs for the city. So talking about the gamut of the portfolio options, not just fuel generation through replacement CTs, which I know you've already issued an RFP for. You haven't a siting survey?
Siting survey.
Okay, so that is started, but I feel as though the public should be able to weigh in on some of the decisions that we're going to make. Battery storage, issues about, I know AMI has been discussed and I am new, so I'm willing to at least ask that question about whether modifying peak demand through allowing citizens to adjust their own usage is still worth discussing. As we talk about generating power, I'm not part of your solution. Only generation is part of the solution. I think it's at least worth some discussion on that. And helping folks just have an overview of the SPP and what requirements that has. I think there's always great usefulness in a very high-level overview of how the utility works and how we are in partnership as people thought about last year's winter storms, as you're watching fires in California, et cetera. I think energy is on everybody's mind, the reliability of the grid and what our future options are. And I think climate change is on people's minds. So allowing the public to come in and have a discussion with us as we talk about that, whether purchasing power is a better option versus generating our own, taking the temperature of the citizenry is an opportunity we should take advantage of. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Anybody else?
I liked everything that Bridget just mentioned, and I also think that a lot of people would benefit from some just general information of where we are now. For example, when we discussed solar a few minutes ago, it dawned on me I hadn't really heard about that shares program and all the details that somebody would need to make that decision for a couple of years or so. And so if that information is given with a little detail to the people who are interested in learning more about it, we might sell more than 60%. Maybe a 30-second blurb that the average person would know, I want to know more, or I'm finished hearing something. We definitely would want to give a time frame for speakers who wanted to add to the conversation, because I do want to hear from the ratepayers, but you know, there's a limit to how much each person needs to go on. But I think that big picture stuff about where we go from here, I don't know if we need to include a discussion of where rates need to be to address some liability that we're sitting on. So, and I don't know if the public wants to know that stuff, but you know, that's part of the big picture. It's a really big picture.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Brittany.
I'm a little concerned about making rates one of the issues to discuss, because that's a pretty volatile conversation that is not as directed at helping us think our 10 and 20-year plan. Rates will always be something that the PUAB thinks about, and that is the responsibility of the staff as well, that they're the best rates that we give our ratepayers. But helping us think about our generation and consumption options for the long term, that's what I'm hoping for in a public hearing. I don't know if it is possible to have people with expertise and you give them 2 minutes independent of your general citizens. So a 10-minute presentation on what we anticipate battery storage, or a 10-minute presentation on fossil fuels and the issues that we may have getting future resources. That is a consideration.
Well, my question to the board is this public hearing gonna be only on power and light, or is it on all utilities?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Dave.
if we can't agree, just through what I've been hearing, I think what we might want to do is we might want to, each one of us, write down what we would like to have on a public hearing. I hate to push this off and make the decision next meeting, but this sounds like chaos right now, and I'm over here, I'm laughing and saying, if we can't make up our minds on 2 or 3 items to have a public hearing, we're going to be there for hours. And I think you need to be focused and have a very short and sweet agenda that people can wrap their hands around. Otherwise, you're going to have chaos on your hands. I don't know if you've been on a public hearing, but you don't need to open up a can of worms.
Well, I've been on a public hearing, Dave. I know what you're talking about, and I agree. I think that was my suggestion, to ask for a motion to each individual write down what they think the topic should be. And if it's to cover all utilities, and we would do the same thing as they do at the council at a hearing, put a time limit, and it'd be for ratepayers only could speak.
Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to make a motion that each of the members here submit their list to Christina. And at our next meeting, let's take a look at that list and we'll vote on them at that time, and then decide if we want to go forward with a public hearing or not.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a second? Any more discussion on it? Call the roll, please.
Larry Porter,
Yes.
Joe Zack,
Yes.
David McDowell,
Yes.
Bridget McCandless,
Yes.
Les Boatright,
Yes.
Sherry Tyndall. Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, Jim, you got any reports that you want to give?
No reports, but I do want to let you know some of the things that we're working on. We have, IPL has filed a generation request with Southwest Power Pool. We did that because the window of opportunity to file the request, we had to be in by July 1st. So we filed the request, and we discussed with
Southwest Power Pool that there could be some modification to the request as we fine tune those decisions. But in order to get into their process, we filed it. At the same time, we filed a waiver request with FERC. There are certain terms of the Southwest Power Pool tariff that we did not meet because at the time the council made the decision to close Blue Valley, they had not yet, Southwest Power Pool had not yet announced their alternative process for requesting replacements. We're asking FERC to give us a waiver to allow us to use that replacement process because it's estimated 12 to 18 months as opposed to 4 to 5 years to get approval for that generation request. So those two things are in motion right now. They are in a period where other utilities or other interested parties have an opportunity to comment. I think the deadline's coming up here in another week or so, and then FERC will begin to process their decision. In the meantime, we've been moving ahead with the siting study. They are working on their report now. They've done their research. They've done their interviews. They're working on their report. We should have something here in the next couple of weeks that we'll be able to present. Another thing that is in parallel with that, we brought in a firm to do what we call a rate comparison study, where they're looking at what are the differences between us and some of the other utilities around us. They are in the process of drafting their report. They've completed their research and they're working on their report. So here, possible for the next PUAB meeting, we'll probably have something we can report to you back on those.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Dan?
Thank you. I don't really have a report today, Chair,
Okay,
but I just thought I would give you a heads up to those that have been here a while. We had a distribution manager position open for some time, and that's critical to our main replacement program. And that we, fortunate enough, Matt Say, who most of you had met, was a distribution manager before, has come back to work for us. So it stayed open long enough that he made a choice to come back, which is great news for us because he's going to come up to speed really quick, obviously, because he had done a job.
he's coming back as manager.
So that's
Project, huh?
Pardon?
He's coming back in the same position?
Yes, he's a distribution manager again. So he
Okay.
went to a consulting engineering firm and came back. So that was good news for us. But the main reason why I was here was when the finance and administration, when they bring up stuff, I thought I could at least be able to hopefully answer questions if it was anything that was outside the box.
Okay, Dan, we'll be setting up tours for the new members. And I'm assuming I'll send them to Matt.
Yeah, you can send them to me. That's
Oh,
fine.
you?
Yeah, I'll be glad.
Well, I'm gonna get with Adam because he had a deal set up as what he wanted to do. And when he gets back next week, I'll get a hold of him.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. I believe that would be a good opportunity to
Yeah.
meet the folks that haven't been, and because I've never met Ms. Tyndall before, so that'd be nice. And
Okay.
but anyway,
Okay,
look forward to that.
thank you. You want me to skip finance and go to Lisa first? Is yours pretty long?
It's your meeting.
I don't have a report.
You don't have a report?
Well, you have the financials included in your
Okay.
packet. I don't really have much to add to that.
Well, Dan, you can leave too then. Okay, anybody got any questions on the financial report? Hearing none, go to Lisa. Oops,
Just touching base, just to be sure I fully understand your financials. We've gone from 29 million in losses to 40 million in losses on the IPL side. And what do we anticipate we will be at year end?
Staff is still putting together the year-end data. I'm not sure I can really give you a good projection for year-end. Keep in mind of the 40 million, 21 or 22 million of it was extraordinary type events. One was paying cash off to the bondholders, and then also the rebate that the council approved. Also under charges for services in IPL, they appear to be behind. They're coming in obviously lower than what we had anticipated in the budget. Part of what I've assigned my staff to, and I keep looking behind you because they're both sitting
Yeah.
back behind
I'm
you.
watching my back.
Yeah. I've asked them to do a do a comprehensive review of several items in our revenue line items, including revenue estimated not yet billed, because there's some large adjustments in that revenue line item that I really want to make sure that we're understanding. So there may be dollars in there that are, and those are estimates. Those are estimates of, hey, we've had this electricity produced, but we haven't read the meter yet. And I'm just not sure those adjustments, I just want to see those adjustments to make sure that those are accurate. So we're having our FERC accountants, if you will, come in and also review those and understand where those revenue line items are. So we're anticipating mid-August to have those the analysis and reports done, and so they'll be part of our audited financial statements. But this time next month, we'll have some preliminary June 30th numbers for you, though, to get a better idea of that. But I'm as concerned probably as the board is on those amounts that we're seeing in the revenue line item and IPL.
And as we look forward to the next budgetary cycle, we anticipate that our revenue estimates are still realistic, or are they?
Well, that's a great question, because that's what we'll take a look at as part of this year-end analysis, to do a reset and see if we need to adjust any of our current year. Current year now is the 2022 fiscal year that we're in now. And we'll do an assessment whether or not that those revenue projections are accurate. It's been a weird year, and so it's hard to really kind of take a look at what we experienced this year, and between obviously the no turnoffs for a long time, no penalties for a long time, the cyber event that we had, and of course just the weirdness of a pandemic. But we'll go back and take a look at that, assess whether or not there's any kind of trend that we should be expecting this fiscal year, and make any adjustments that we need to. And I'll work with the IPL team to make sure that we're keeping track of that.
And so if your assessment shows that you anticipate a reduction in operating revenue, in part because people have used less energy, and it may be that that is an ongoing trend as people are more thoughtful about their energy utilization, you will have a plan for offsetting that with change in your operating expenses.
Sure. Yeah, the IPL, and Jim specifically, is charged with bringing forward a balanced budget. And so if we find that the deficit, if there is going to be a deficit, that he would then come forward and make a recommendation to the governing body about making adjustments to the expenditure side. And that would be part of the communication with this board also about what that assessment is. It's a large amount. I mean, there's no getting around it. This is a major item that we'll need to be looking at. And the first thing I want to do is make sure that we don't have any kind of estimates in our financial data. So over the years, there's always been different estimates, adjustments in our financials, and we just want to make sure those are still accurate, make sense. For instance, allowance for doubtful accounts, bad debt expense. Again, things have changed quite a bit, and we just need to go back, and I'm asking our staff to go in and reevaluate and reassess how we operate, instead of just doing the same type of accounting entries, if you will, every year. So it is a long process to make sure that not only are we looking at them, but we also help all the staff get their minds around kind of different types of adjustments and evaluation that we're doing. I seem like I'm talking a lot. Hopefully that's answered your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any
I've
other
got a question. This may come under dumb questions. When they read meters, do they read the electric meter and gas meter at the same, electric and water at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so is that employee charged to the electric, or is it charged to the water?
So we have they break it out. The answer to your question is all the above, even water pollution control. They need like winter quarter averages. They need monthly for businesses to know how to build a sewer also. So to answer your question, there's a percentage that goes to each one of those for the billing, just like it is for customer service. It's not like Power and Light pays all the customer service and all the meter reading. We all pay a portion of that. And there is actually going to be a study which will be taking a look at all these costs to determine the true value that what those numbers should be. You know, traditionally, when we have a percentage and say it's 40, I'm just making up a number here, 40, and say water pollution control was paying, now it's support services, is paying 11%, and we'd be paying the difference as out of the water fund. So, but that number is going to be looked at, and that's a whole nother topic that's, maybe you can expand on that.
Well, one other question. So the vehicle used for that service, is that broken out as well?
The meter readers have a vehicle allowance. They drive their own vehicle when they go on their routes. Now, if it's what we consider a driving route where they're driving out in, say, the east side where there's a long way between meters, they use a city vehicle for that. But if it's a normal residential route, they're walking, they drive their own vehicle. That's part of that vehicle allowance is part of the overall meter reader expense, which is then shared with all three departments.
Okay, one other question I have. We've got this severe number in the electric department not having enough funds because the February issue with the fuel adjustment. Is that the only one that had problems? I mean, did we have problems with water and sewer? Those numbers were consistent with they had been in the past, so it was just electric because of the fuel cost?
What you were paying for power.
Yeah,
Right. The excessive costs in February were what IPL was billed from either our fuel suppliers or SPP for the energy, the purchase power contracts that we have with, or ownership expenses with Dogwood, Iatan, Nebraska City. Those were all IPL.
Okay.
that's, Dave, that's the fuel adjustment on that. It's just with the power.
They're talking about a $40 million deficit, and I'm trying to figure out, is that across the board or just electric that has that problem?
That 40 million, that's IPL.
Okay.
And it's a combination of the bond payoff, the return to the ratepayers that was voted on, the $8 million of excess expenses that we incurred, about a 6% drop in our load or demand across the year, which is 6% is about another 8 million. So there's several things that all add together there that come to that 40 million mark.
Did we have a 6% drop in the water consumption as well?
It's actually an increase of probably 2 or 3%.
See, that just doesn't compute to me.
Well, and I'm not certain how we wholesale half of our water, so part of that is that we're wholesaling to the other areas, so that spreads the cost out to a larger group of. We're serving probably 250,000 people versus their Independence residents only.
Okay.
So that helps us spread that. But to answer, I was just looking at that. Like last month, it was up 2 or 3%, and over the whole year, it's been up slightly. And whether that's because people were working at home, living at home, or whatever would cause that to be up, but we've not noticed a decrease.
You see, you'd think if water consumption's up, you'd think electricity consumption would be up as well.
Well, there's a combination of factors there, Mr. McDowell. It's you had all the businesses that were closed due to COVID. You had businesses that were running 50% because of COVID, so they had less usage. Overall, weather patterns were actually milder for the year. We had less heating degree days in the winter and less cooling degree days in the summer. So that resulted in lower than projected demand.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anybody else got any questions? Lisa?
Like everyone else, I don't really have a formal report, but did want to take a quick look at the capital project report that was part of the financials. Hopefully you'll notice this list is getting shorter, so the projects are being closed out. There are 2 additional on here that we, as soon as Laura is back from vacation, we'll submit paperwork to close as well. The biggest one that we get questions about most often, obviously, is the biosolids project. That is literally trudging along. We're having a bit of trouble getting submittals back from our engineer in a timely manner, so we're dealing with that. So that has been extended. The finish date completion on that's been extended several times, unfortunately. So still plugging along, still welcome to come down and see the progress that's been made, but it is not complete. So that'll be a big one to close and get off the books as soon as humanly possible. So.
Okay, I have a quick question, maybe you can't answer it. What are we doing on 42nd Street again, down by that drain? Behind
the culvert?
Price Chopper. Remember we fixed the road down
We fixed
there?
the culvert there, yeah.
Well, now there's a big hole just to the east of it.
It's like somebody was digging a foundation or something.
Yeah, it's
It's-
almost like you're gonna put a building there.
Yeah.
Or do
It's not a sewer project. I'm not sure. I mean, I can check and figure out.
Well,
We should have
yeah,
some kind
well-
of permit on it somewhere. But
I don't know what they're doing. They're gonna, all the mud's gonna go down into the drainage you fixed.
well, if they're digging, they should have erosion control for stormwater protection.
Didn't see any there.
Right away, follow up on it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got questions for this? Hearing none. Thank you. We all have a list of the upcoming items. Christine, I'll probably be getting with you after Adam gets back to change some of them, because we're gonna have to do the public hearing and stuff on there. So I'll get with you on that. Our next meeting will be August 19th.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Bridget?
On our future discussions, I know we had talked about doing an update on Dogwood at some point to understand what their future expenses might be for replacement and remediation. And since we own a portion of it, we would eventually need to pay some of those other costs if that's something that we could put on for a future meeting. Thank you.
Yes, it is, and that's your new vice chair's job. You get with him and give me the items you want to put on the,
Okay, thank you.
all right? Our next, like I said, our next meeting will be August the 19th. Anybody else got comments or questions?
I have one more question.
Yes, Bridget?
I was trying to prepare for the orientation. They're kindly gonna let me tag along since mine was a little bit weird during COVID. And I know we're supposed to have an annual report, and I'm sorry it wasn't in my packet, and so I'm just asking if that's somewhere, a QAB annual report.
I don't have it yet.
I don't believe there's been one done this year.
No, there hasn't been one done, as I told you earlier.
Okay,
Yeah.
but are there older ones that I can look at?
Should be,
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments? Then we're adjourned.
I'm there 2 days.
Okay, all right. 'Cause I know I'm supposed to be here. I'm looking at my calendar. I'm
No,
like,
it's not set yet.
Like the product, we were